figurines. They're a nice little cool thing. Now, am I personally familiar with them? Don't know that I'd say I'm that familiar. Just a little. I think I'm just a little familiar. Now there's an absurdly massive amount of figures out there, and in terms of something like anime, that market grows to be even bigger. Now there's one series in particular that I think it's really worth talking about in regards to all of this, and sadly, it's about a series that I love a whole lot. ReZero. In terms of ReZero, there aren't really many figures or dioramas that are based on the anime itself. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely some. But outside of the occasional release, the prize boxes, or figures made to promote OVAs, that number basically drops down to 0. Now, I know I criticize the series a lot on things every now and then. I've discussed my problems with the anime. I've mentioned on the recent MF Bunko recording stream type of thing that I felt like the mobile games should be handled a whole lot better than they are, and I had a fair amount of problems with Arc 7. It should be noted, however, that these complaints aren't coming from a place where I secretly hate the series or anything like that. Rather, it's from a place of love, because I hate to see certain aspects of the series get fucked over. Also, just because you critique a series that you love doesn't necessarily mean you hate it. It's kinda important to critique something you love, since it shows the flaws that exist there, along with the fact that, hey, maybe they'll fix this in the future, and the hope of that. With all that said, let's bring things back to what I mentioned earlier. Figures. If you're deep enough in this community, you should know damn well where this whole thing is headed. To fill in those who don't know, however, I shall now read out a few tweets from my good pal, Dosh. It's absurd to me how a series so predicated on denying the objectification of people, particularly women, and instead empowering them, has nearly all of its merchandising be based upon the overt and gratuitous objectification of these characters. But I'm used to it at this point. This is not Rem. These figures represent nothing aside from an appeal towards the very gaze which the show criticizes. The female characters of this series are given nothing but merchandise, sexualizing and objectifying them, when these characters do not at all represent this. And I wouldn't be mad at this if this material weren't the only thing we've been given. There are 0 solo figures of any of the male characters, and female characters aside from a select few main ones are not given anything aside from relaxed time figures. It generally feels as though any of the marketing or merchandising this series receives runs antithetical to what the series is, and I've seen the ramifications of this in multiple places regarding its perception as either a harem series or a series that lacks sufficient depth. Oh, and by the way, this might seem like I'm joking because I'm doing this whole bit, but no, I agree with Dosh 100% here. This shit is gross, and if you want to see an example of this, just give me a moment and we'll go over that. But with that out of the way, take it away, regular Niab. So, before I go into any of the examples that I'm talking about, let me first say something before all of that. I fucking love outfit changes. One of the biggest ways you can get me interested in a series from the viewpoint of art and style is showing me the characters and how their outfits change with every arc that passes. They don't necessarily need this to begin with, but it just adds a lot of brownie points for me. One Piece, which I mention a lot in regards to ReZero quite often, really is strange, isn't it? Anyways, One Piece does this interesting little thing where not only does the main cast get outfit changes, but Luffy himself always kind of gets a change to the jacket he's wearing. Then we take a look at another side of the Big Three, Bleach, where Kubo likes to give his characters different outfits for these big 2-page spreads on each volume. Even in something like ReZero, this occurs. My personal favorite being Arc 6, where characters get a much more desert appropriate attire, and assuming you've seen the previous review, which if you haven't, maybe due to spoilers or just not being there yet, whatever it may be, fair enough. But if you've seen the previous review, I think you should know which one of those attires is my personal favorite. Even in other media, ReZero has done stuff where they gave characters different outfits and thus gave it a different, fresh coat of paint on them. As much as I was very meh with Lost in Memories, and now I'm starting to feel the same way about Infinity, both games do a great job at giving these characters different types of styles while also just keeping the characters themselves in mind. Hell, the Rem diorama across the room is still fucking beautiful, and it keeps the maid dress in mind with its design. Now, this might all sound confusing. You might be thinking, well, Niab, where's the problem here then? Two things. Firstly, and keep a nice large pin on this in the back of your mind. Remember how I just mentioned the whole keep the character in mind type of thing? That's something super important to note when it comes to this. Now, with that pin in place, let's look at the second point. Remember what my good pal Dosh mentioned about the whole this series likes to empower women rather than objectify them? You see where we're headed now, right? The ReZero figures are an interesting method of branding. Now, I fall into quite the peculiar boat here, seeing as my favorite character, who I love for her fantastic writing and partial demon-related biases, just so happens to be the character that they really like to market the most. I would honestly believe you if you told me that some people think that she is the main character of the show. I took that from my good pal Raichuius. If you see him at any point in the comments of my videos, feel free to give him a nice thumbs up for that one. When it comes to the marketing of ReZero, this stuff is handled in a very odd way. And let's just not beat around the bush here. The figures are the biggest problem out of it all. So let's go back to the whole unique outfit thing I was talking about, right? Let's bring up the example that my friend Dosh was mentioning. Rem in a water dress. In concept, it's kinda interesting, I guess. It's odd to say, but I can see where the light bulb clicked on, but I just don't think it was that interesting enough to create this. Let's look at something else here, though, shall we? It's really interesting how the whole water dress thing is just the whole thing going on here, and there's nothing else to it. There sure is a whole lot of skin there, on there. Like damn, there's a lot that is visible. Also, how does this dress relate to her? Like, yeah, okay, she mainly uses water magic, but she's not that absurd with it, and this is just a whole ass dress made out of it. It's kind of just weird. But you know what? It's not the worst. So let's move on to our next example, shall we? Let's look at the graceful beauty figures. And I mean, these are interesting. This is some nice Chinese dress type of stuff going on here. I like it. I like it. Honestly, it's not bad. I mean, the outfits could be a little bit more similar to the characters themselves, like I mentioned. But you know what? It's not bad. Now, Amelia's is not too shabby. But let's move over and take a look at Rem. What's up with that? Could have been positioned in a whole bunch of ways. And she's positioned like that. Almost makes me think that this is a jar figure. And I mean, if you need an explanation for that, you might be better off without one, giving the original context. But you know what? Maybe this is just me, right? Maybe I have the wrong mindset here. So let's just move on from this. It's just a little odd. Let's just keep going. All right, see, now we're talking. We got Rem in a whole wedding dress, this type of thing. It's nice, got the proper color, all this, beautiful. It's a little odd that she's in a wedding dress, but you know what? We have an entire what-if story on this whole sort of shit. So, it's not that strange. It's a little odd that the dress is kind of short. I mean, it's a wedding dress, so you'd expect it to be a bit bigger. But you know what? That's fine. That's a small thing. It's whatever. But, just in case, we have another example right here. See, now you get the proper huge dress to her and everything. It's super nice. Albeit, could be a bit closer to the actual character, but it's fine. You know what? It works. It's a little bit pricey, but you know what? If you want a Rem with a proper wedding dress and everything as a figure, it's nice. It works. These two are really great examples. So that's perfectly... What's that? What am I looking at? So let me make something clear here. This is still referred to as the wedding version of Rem. Oh, but don't worry. Rem gets one too. So we have two wedding versions of these characters where there's a whole lot of skin showing. Except for, you know, certain areas of the body. And that's it. This is all they're wearing. Let's just be brutally honest here. These are jar figures. Even if we try to remove those ideas away from this figure, what exactly is portrayed here? Is this Rem? Is this a wedding version of Rem? Is this really the same character we have seen go through a whole bunch of shit, dealing with their own trauma, being cautious of others, finding love in somebody who gave them a purpose in life, fighting for that person? All of this stuff, is this figure right here the same person that we are looking at? Alright, let's take a different spin on this, shall we? Let's say we want appeal here, right? Let me throw in a new character, Echidna. Her version focuses on the appeal of the character and matches her as a character in color. All the while, it still encompasses a wedding dress. It's not the perfect type of figure for her, but if we want a good example of the shit we're going over in regards to this sort of stuff, yeah, this works. Also, I mentioned Lost in Memories earlier. That also had characters in wedding dresses and that sort of stuff. But guess what? Those things kept the characters and how they act in mind. So let me ask again. What is this? And I know, this shit exists outside of ReZero as well. But let's take a look at a separate series, shall we? I mentioned Bleach before, and outfit changes in that and everything. And in regards to that, we have some figures to look at here. On occasion, Bleach will make some figures of their female characters, and there's certainly some choices made here. Wanna know the big difference though between Bleach and ReZero? Bleach does that shit to begin with. I'm not gonna say, oh, Kubo is objectifying these women, because no. He writes them incredibly well, and honestly also focuses on empowering them. But he also does know what his market is. Thus, there's often jokes or very clear visual things regarding these characters that's kind of just shoved in there because of that. So when you see a character from that series with a figure like that, it's not entirely odd, on top of the fact that they're not being overproduced with different outfits and poses that still appeal to that. And don't get me wrong, ReZero has some characters that are definitely having some of that appeal in there. But you want to know something funny about that? One of those characters has two entire figures. One could definitely be seen that way, and the other is literally just their default outfit. They shockingly get the least amount, which is kind of funny and also kind of good, because I keep having to tell people that if you don't want to lose your hog, you don't stick your hog in the crazy person, but that's besides the point. It's kind of funny that it's viewed in such a way where characters who could very easily be crafted into something like that don't get that, but instead the characters who get building and proper character to them and all this sort of shit, yeah, they're the ones who get it. Which, yeah, part of that could be viewed from the fact that a large majority of them are just part of the main cast. So, yeah, obviously they're the popular characters, but at the same time, there is very clearly a view of money in their bodies. And it's only these characters. Only the ones who have this sort of appeal. And you want to know why? Let me give you a brief rundown. So, I could mention the rest of the main cast, but I mean, that would include Beatrice, and that's really gross because she's basically a child, and my comments toward this would be a lot more aggressive if she was also involved in this whole thing. So, because she isn't, or anything like that, let's just move past this, past the main cast. Krush is one of the most important characters in the story, not just early on, but in the whole grand scheme of things, she's pretty damn important. Now, given her whole character and the building she has with Felix, it makes sense that she doesn't have a figure like this. It would honestly also be pretty aggravating if she did. But, I mean, she doesn't. So that's good, right? That's the thing though. She has nothing. Only a Nendroid. Nothing other than that. Just the small little goblin creature for her. So, who shall we compare her to? Minerva. Minerva is a character who is likely going to be pretty damn important given the small bits and pieces we know, but overall, at this current moment, we barely know shit about her. Especially if we include the anime, which, you know, a lot of the time is the reason these figures get produced. She basically has nothing other than being shown, and the whole mystery to her was cut out entirely. But why? Why would Minerva have a figure over the other characters? Why would she have one over Krush? Why would she have one over Anastasia? Why would she have one over the other witch? She has tits. That is the easiest explanation I can give. She has tits. I don't have any concrete proof towards this, and, you know, for all I know, there could be an external reason, but just going off of the most basic, concrete logic I can think of, she has tits. I would not be surprised at all if Sekhmet is next. Want to know something funny? There was a post on Twitter, and I don't have it on me right now, but if somebody can actually post it in the comments, that would be very helpful. Thank you very much if you do that. But there was a post on Twitter where somebody took a shit ton of the info from the series. People who watch it, read it, fans, all this sort of opinions, just bunched it up into this big graph, essentially. First off, from what was studied, the fanbase has more female fans than male. That might be surprising right now, but don't worry, we've only just started. A large majority of the people enjoy the men of the series, especially to a point of shipping, which, hey, you do you, I've got no problem with that. As long as you're not forcing it down the throats of others, I'm cool with it. Despite that, despite how much there is an interest towards these men, there is not a single male figure of this series, except for Subaru, with Rem on Patrochet running. That diorama is the only one that has a male character there. But there's more. Teppei himself had mentioned that he wanted to see more male figures from the series, as there wasn't really any to begin with. The fucking author of the series had to bring this shit up, and nothing has changed. I'm going a little bit off script here, but since that time, since that has been posted, that whole Q&A thing, there have been multiple other figures released in between that. They've been made and produced in between that. I take a shot every time there has been a Rem and Ram figure produced between that. Don't actually do that. You will probably die. But, like, what the fuck? Do you have any idea how many posts I've seen about the want for Subaru figures? Do you have any idea how much money that would make? You would need a whole ass warehouse to store that money, because that shit would sell like hotcakes as soon as it's released. It's a really odd scenario overall with the series, and I'm not even sure where things are going to be headed with this. At the end of the day, this series is still going to get considered a harem series, because with the way everything is, there's no proper way to show what the series really is about. And if somehow, by some miracle shot, this reaches a Kadokawa employee, higher up, whoever it may be, and you understand the random white guy across the world, please understand, this is coming from a standpoint of I, a fan of the series, who would want to see both more and less of these sorts of things. Just generally take a note of what a lot of fans want, not just focusing on this appeal with the female characters and their bodies, just proper things that the fans might want. Focus on that. And I mean, hey, who am I to say, like I said, I'm just some random white dude. But, you know what? I think it's something worth considering. Hi people, I don't know if this is a video you were all expecting to happen when I said there was going to be another ReZero related video, but this is it. This is what that video was. So, I hope you all enjoyed it. I wanted to talk about this because I mentioned the whole, my good pal Dosh, right? He had those tweets, and I felt like they were so constructive and all this sort of shit, that I'm like, you know what? This can't just go towards people who like follow him and everything like that, right? Because it's like he has a smaller, more private account, all that sort of stuff. He really uses Twitter for just like generally looking at art, and finding funny videos for the most part and everything. So, I was like, seeing as he had to go out of his way and mention all this sort of stuff, like it was at such a breaking point, I thought, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do my part, spread this message way more, right? I felt like that was pretty damn important. So that's what this video was, with me taking that message he originally made and just pushing it to a higher, state. I pretty much have to give him full credit for this. I'm not gonna outright say like, oh, go follow him or some shit like that, because I don't know that he would want that or anything, right? So I'm gonna say mind the peace for now, right? Just like credit to him, right? Credit to him overall for this video. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. This was quite the thing to talk about. I had to make a whole ass script for this. Usually with these sorts of things, I'm a lot more open with what I say. In terms of like the reviews and everything, I like to act in such a way where I don't really need a script, because I feel like I can be very genuine as long as I have notes and stuff like that. I have it overall written down for what I want to say. I can be a lot more creative in that fashion. But this was something that I felt like I needed to discuss so much that it was at a point where I was just like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm making a whole ass script. Gonna work on this. That's how it's gonna be. So, yeah, that's what this is, basically. It's just me making a whole ass script, talking about this. A little bit silly, but, it's fine overall. But that's it. In regards to other videos, the next video is also going to be slightly ReZero related. That was almost a tongue twister there. That one will still be ReZero related, like I mentioned. Very slightly, right? It'll be in there, but it'll have its own part and everything. There'll be all sorts of stuff to it. I'm very excited about the next video. There's a lot to talk about. The thumbnail I made for it is, it's beautiful looking. I actually really like it. I showed it to some friends. They really like it. I hope you all really like it. It's going to be a fun video. It's a long script. Like, let me pull it up here. So this is the script I have for this video, right? And it's decent in length. I think this is like 7 pages long, but I actually had to separate the Dosh tweet stuff a little bit. So it's like 7 pages, but it would be 6, I think, because the last page should technically encompass a lot of the Dosh stuff in a way, right? So all that. So this is roughly about like 6 or 7 pages, right? That other video is going to be 12 pages long. I really didn't separate much on that. The only thing I did actually, I removed some stuff from it because I had a table of contents so I could easily get to stuff, right? I had it on Google Docs, so I was like, oh, table of contents, boom, can get to something very easily. That thing is 12 pages long. Depending on the length of this video, I have no idea how long this video is. Like, listen, the recording of it is like an hour. This is just gonna be like shorter than whatever comes out next. Like, guaranteed, it's probably shorter. It's probably gonna take me a while to record that whole thing, and I'm probably gonna do it right after this, just for the sake of, you know, getting it ready and everything. But, yeah, I got a long night ahead of me. Oh boy. But, yeah, that video is gonna be a bit longer. It'll be fun though. I'm very excited about it. I'm gonna try and edit it up as much as I can, you know, make it nice, all that sort of stuff. It's a big video. It's one of those proper big videos of the channel, similar to the dynamic music one. I want to make it proper. So, I'm excited for that. When that comes out, I don't know. Because this, at the time of me recording this video should be out the same week. That video is either next week or the week after. It's one of the two. It's going to take a bit. Most likely. Maybe not, you know, maybe I can get it in for next week, you know, perfectly, but I don't fully expect that, you know, bit busy in terms of this week and next week and everything, all this sort of stuff. Can't necessarily say that I'll, you know, get it out perfectly on time, this sort of shit. So, expect it within those next 2 weeks. After that, this is where the important things comes in. After that, in the middle of me working on that video, I'm going to work on the script for the next Get Into. The next Get Into won't immediately be out, but I'm going to work on the script of it. By the time that video is out, the script for the next Get Into should be done. Why does this matter? Technically speaking, neither of these matter, because it's something else entirely. 10-year project. That 10-year project that we're doing, you know, rather that I'm doing, but I'm gonna have some help with it. That whole thing, I'm going back to it after I'm done the whole script writing of that Get Into. I'm gonna work on these 2 videos, make sure they're ready and out. Get Into is gonna get the script done, right? Boom, perfect. By the way, if you're new here and you're confused on what the fuck the Get Into means, it's basically a series where I get you into a series. Should be simple enough to understand. We have a few on the channel. We also have one of ReZero. A little bit outdated in terms of a format, but it's okay. Anyways, that stuff is what's going to happen, right? Those 2 videos are going to come out. The Get Into is going to be like written down. After that, I'm switching right back to the 10-year project. The Get Into will still come out. I will still record it and everything. I will just take more time with it so that I can work on the project. When I'm done working on the section of the project, we switch back to videos, that sort of thing, right? That's the schedule we're on now, is switching back and forth. Till then, I'm going to be working on that, right? So by the point that you see the next video, just note the next Get Into is done, and I've switched back. That's all that should be noted with that. With that said, that's going to be all for now. I really need to soften my throat here with a drink, because if I don't, the next script is going to be a pain in the ass. I could pull it up here and just show it a little bit, but like, that's going to be a pain in the ass. So, for now, that is it. Take care. Have yourselves a great night. And I'll see you all possibly with, you know, next week or the week after's video. So, farewell, friends.
Square.